Hey everybody, welcome to J Stern Designs and episode 2 of subscriber Q&A. Um, if you joined me for the maiden voyage of this fun project last week, we talked about an issue that we're going to do or cover this week, and it involves fabric gapping, or not gapping, but bunching up at the back neckline. And this was a question that was asked by a subscriber that was actually in last week's live. So by the time she asked the question and we figured out exactly what she was talking about, we had run out of time. So that's what we're going to deal with today. Hi, Dee, welcome. I think it's just me and you here. Mary BC, welcome from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome. I'm excited. I love it when I can get together with you guys and, you know, sort of be together on the same page at the same time. So if you have a question, you can ask me, or, or I can answer a question while you're watching. So I think this is kind of cool. Hi, Diane. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Karen. Welcome, ladies. I'm excited. I learned a new thing that I can do in my OBS software. So instead of me showing you things on my phone, I can actually put the pictures up on my screen. So look how fun this is. We're working on a question from a subscriber today about fabric bunching up at the back neckline. And if you were with me last week, you might have heard the question being asked live last week, and I said I would do it this week. So she sent me some pictures, and I just want to show you the fun thing I can do. Hi, Francis, welcome. And Dee is from Colorado, Greenlee. We have Escape 10 Mom from South Florida, and Karen from Massachusetts, and Rachel and Diane from Richmond, Virginia. This is so exciting. Hi, Lazarus from Greece. Welcome, welcome. Fun little story about Greece. Well, it's not about Greece, but one of the restaurants that my mom and dad like to go to has a waitress named Stephanie, and she's Greek, and she's been trying to get her mother here on a visa for a long time. So keep your fingers crossed that happens, because every year she goes to visit her mom in Greece, and she's really trying to get her here to the United States. So every time I hear Greece, or if I am reminded of Greece, I'm always thinking of her and praying that she can get her mom over here. Personally, I'd like to go over there. It seems like it's so beautiful. Hi, Lauren from Wisconsin. Welcome, welcome. All right, let me show you this fun thing that I learned to do in my OBS software. I can actually turn on and off a picture. Isn't that cool? So now you guys can see what I'm talking about without me trying to show you on my phone. So I'm really excited about this new thing that I can work with here. So if you look at this picture really carefully, I don't see the subscriber who asked the question here yet, and actually I had emailed her to ask her some other things and she did not get back to me. So we're going to talk about some things, and then I'm going to give 2 potential fixes for this bunching up problem. So you can see here at the top of the neckline, like right at the base of the band for the collar, she has like a little ripple, and it looks like it's extra fabric hanging out at the base of her neckline. So of course, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was, oh, maybe she needs a deeper back neckline curve to allow the shoulder seams to reach up to her shoulder. You can see that the shoulder seam itself is laying properly on her shoulder. It's straight from the center of her neckline to the tip of her shoulder. So it's not the position of her shoulder, but what it may be is the fact that the sleeve is hanging off of her shoulder. So notice you can see the little tidbit of the top of her sleeve cap in the lower portion of this photo. And I wanted to reach into the picture and pull it up onto her shoulder. So what I think is a likely thing to be happening here is, because the fabric is stretched off her shoulders, like, like this, like it's basically pulling like this. And so on a woven non-stretchy fabric, what that's going to do is it's going to cause stress wrinkles across her back. So that's kind of what I think is happening here. So I'm going to quickly show you how to get that shoulder seam shortened up. And then I'm also going to show you how you can create a, a longer, well, I'm going to show you how to also create a longer neckline in the back. Oh, Karen's asking, would that be a high round back adjustment? You know what? I was going to ask her if she had a high round back, but she seems, everybody has a little bit of a curve here, and I don't know that her curve is, the top of her back is curved to the point where she would need to lengthen the center back seam to accommodate a curve. Maybe in some cases that could cause the fabric to bunch, but usually what it does is it pulls the neckline back, because if you have a high round back, it's usually too short there, not too long there. Oh, Isla says, it's amazing plaid match. Yes, we do have to give her snaps for matching up this plaid. I am ultra impressed. I had that on my list to mention to you guys how well she matched those plaids. So I'm giving her 2 stars for that. And what I want to do now is, let me switch my view here. And so if you've got a shoulder, if the shoulder is hanging out too far down, meaning your shoulder seam is too long, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this here just so you can see. I'm going to put it together like this. Okay, so what I think is happening here is, if my shoulders were matching like this, I think what we could do is we could literally just bring this in so that the seam is sitting on the tip of her shoulder. And anyone who loves to draw can do this. Because remember, the whole goal of an armhole is to have a smooth transition front to back. So you want it to be straight there. Oh, Lazarus wants to know if it could be the slope of her shoulder, like the angle of her shoulder. So let me just put the picture. I'm going to add the picture. Let me add the picture here too, so I don't have to go back and forth. Okay, so let's put the picture back up. All right, so let me just make it a little bit smaller here so we can see it. I don't think it's the angle of the shoulder, because if the angle of the shoulder was wrong, I kind of think it would be picking up or acting funky closer to the shoulder seam. One thing you could do to test that, though, is you could unsew, take the collar off, take out the shoulder seam, and then, see if it relaxes, like let the shoulder seam out. Oh, so you mean her frame is more square. Well, I think it being square, but then also I think it's off her shoulder. See up here? See here? This is what I'm talking about. See right here? I'm going to expand this part right here. I think the tip of her shoulder, I think these 3 black lines of the plaid are hanging off her shoulder. I think her tip of her shoulder is up higher. So what's happening is it could be that she has a very square shape, but I think it's pulling because the fabric is going, pulling off her shoulder because the armhole is not up on her shoulder. But it could also be, if the slope is wrong, and actually by deepening the curve to fix it the second way I'm going to show you, that would change the slope of the shoulder as well. I'll show you that in a second. I'll show you that in a second place. Okay, D is asking, I have to do a narrow shoulder adjustment. Is that this? Yes, it is. All right, let me just slide the picture down here. I can put it back if we need it. Okay, Lazarus is in agreement that it's pulling. So let's go back to this. So this is just my visual that I just wanted to show you, getting it onto the tip of the shoulder. But a lot of people feel, nervous or are not really confident to draw in the new shape. So instead of drawing in the new shape like this, you could, I'm going to just put these aside for now. You could decide how, just get a ruler. Hold on 1 second. I have my ruler somewhere. There it is, sorry. Okay, so the way you would do it if so Karen is asking if it's a drop shoulder design. It very well may be a drop shoulder design, but it could be a drop shoulder design and it could still be causing it to pull. So if you need to do a narrow shoulder or shorten your shoulder, you're going to draw a line from the middle of your shoulder down to the straight part of the armhole like this. And then you're going to draw a line showing you how much you need to take that in. So let's pretend that's the amount I need to take it in. And then you're going to use your rotary cutter. Wow, I am organized today. Oh, here it is. I only have like 5 projects going on this week. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut this. And then you're just going to slide it in. Okay. And what that does is it creates a shoulder seam that's going to sit on the shoulder. Okay, so you just slide it over and tape it back. Now you've got this little jog here. The way you fix the jog, I'm going to use a different color. Let's use this peachy color. The way you fix it is you find the middle of the jog and you trim a little off here and add a little here. So I think this might be a little bit easier for people to put back versus trying to draw the whole thing just from scratch. So when you do that in the front, you also need to do it in the back. And that's going to pick up, this is going to pick up the shoulder. Now, if it happens to be that it is a drop shoulder design, then my second adjustment will fix it. And I'm really not sure where my subscriber who asked the question is today, but she will be able to watch this after the fact. And if she has questions, please, please, please email me and ask me and I will help you. But basically, this is going to get it back on the shoulder if it's not a drop shoulder. So again, I'm just going to cut this, slide it over. And notice when I slide it over, I'm sliding it parallel. I'm not changing anything except shortening the shoulder. And you can see in the back, it makes a little bit of a truing up issue. So first we're going to true up by, again, finding the middle, trimming a little bit away from below, like this, and adding a little bit above to reestablish the shape. So that's how you would get it on the shoulder if that's the problem. Now, we're going to entertain all of these other things, including if the fabric here can also be pulling because there isn't enough length from here to here to reach the front shoulder. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to show you is going to fix the ripple here, the tight right here, whether it's a drop shoulder or whether it's a set-in sleeve and it's supposed to be on your shoulder. This would fix either one if the issue is it's too short here. So, you know, keep in mind your front shoulder and back shoulder have to, you know, they attach to each other, right? So if I fold this back and put this right here, okay, so your neck, let me just put this like this. Okay, so your neck is in here, right? And if the base of your neck, which, you know, is here, this is your neck, let's say, right? There's our neck. If there isn't enough length through here, then it could also cause it to pull here. Okay, so that's another thing that could happen. And what you would do to fix that is you would add a wedge here. Now, we saw that the shoulder is sitting on the shoulder properly, right? So let's look at it again over here. Okay, so the shoulder seam is straight. So adding a little bit to this back would allow it to relax and it should still lay straight. So you would, you know, I would start with maybe 3/8 of an inch. It's not going to be a lot, but then what you would do is you would just reconnect it to here. So you would be adding this wedge that I'm coloring in pink. And then you've lengthened your shoulder seam 3/8 of an inch, right? Okay, so Michael Lee, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I am so sorry. Is asking about a high round back. I mean, usually a high round back pulls the neckline down because a high round back needs more length and a curve to come up to the base of the neckline. I suppose there could be situations where the fabric is curving over your curve and it's bunching up there, but that would probably be the third thing I would try if these two things that I'm doing are not working. So adding here, so like if we added 3/8 of an inch here, right? You'd have 3/8 of an inch also added on the other side of your neck, because when you cut out two new back pieces, you're adding 3/4 of an inch to that. So you'd have to also lengthen your collar and collar stand 3/4 of an inch in the back to get that to fit. So keep that in mind, that if you're adding here, you'd also have to lengthen your collar stand and your collar pieces a like amount. And I would just add it at the center back so it comes up to the sides, to the shoulder seam where it should be. So that's another potential fix. And if, you know, if it is a high round back, you know, you could also fix it by doing a high round back adjustment. And I think part of my issue is, I was trying to correspond back and forth with her and she didn't get back to me. So, and I'm not poo-pooing her. I know everyone's busy, so I'm not being judgy here. I wanted to ask some questions to verify, but basically she didn't get back to me, so I'm not sure about the style of the shirt, and I'm not sure if, you know, because she could have told me if she felt it was pulling on the back neckline. So that's my thought for now. But I do agree with you. If she's got any sort of, you know, any sort of things like a curve in the back or protruding shoulder blades or any of that, could cause you to need more room. So let's talk about one more thing here. If it is in fact pulling here because she needs more room here, another thing she can do, remember, I think last week I showed you guys how to do the seam adjustment version where you actually cut along your seam. So if I draw my seam allowance, and I just want to use a different color here so it's not going to be all the same color. All right, I'm just going to use this dark purple one. So if this is my seam allowance right here, and this is my seam allowance here. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can cut on your seam allowance, and I'm going to have to cut through there to, oops, to make a pivot. Sorry. Oops. Let me just retape this on. And then I'm going to cut here. And I'll make a pivot here. You can actually, like we did last week, we can pull this out a little, like this. So see how I'm gently pulling this out? This should be staying together. This is what happens when I use a pattern that's already been sliced and diced here. Hold on. All right, so I can pull this out a little, and I need to make a pivot here. To let that out, and that will give us, I got to keep that. Let me just tape that right there together. Okay, and we can pull this out ever so slightly to make room for the back as well. Let me just pivot. Let me just do this. All right, let me use a green Sharpie here. All right, so Mary says, it seems if you took the collar off, the fabric would go up on the neckline and be loose. What about a neck dart? And moving the dart to the shoulder seams so the opposite. Looks like a lack of circumference room in the back shoulder area to me. Okay, so if you took the collar stand off, it would pull up there, but that can still be a stress. That can still be a stress wrinkle from it being pulled across the shoulder. And then, you know, if you wanted to add a dart, you could, but I try not to add darts to things that don't have darts or were not designed to have a dart there to fit. Because darting something sort of, it puts a band-aid on the problem. It doesn't actually fix the shape of the pattern. And Robin says, it looks like a lack of circumference room in the back shoulder area to me. And yes, that was my first thought, and that's why I added here. It was too short from here to here, so I added the pink wedge. But on the off chance that it's just too tight through here, this is all just too tight, then slashing the pattern in the seam and spreading it like this to add room can add, you know, that can add room to relax it as well. Okay, so see how we're adding, whoops, I'm sorry. So see how we're adding room in there? And it's a little bit, I think this is because I sliced and diced it. I mean, the original line of the pattern is here. So I opened it up that green amount. And I think because it's a chopped up pattern, I don't know why that did that. But basically, you can see we've added length in here. And that would also relax it. So it's going to be one of those things. So I'm going to answer Karen's question in 1 second. I just want to regroup here. Okay. So if it's not a off the shoulder design or a drop shoulder design, the first thing you can try is you can try shortening your shoulder seam. And what you would do in your actual garment is, the reason why this is a good one to try first is if you pinch the fabric up like this while you're wearing it, you can see if that relaxes the you can see if that relaxes that ripple in the back. You can easily pick your shoulders up by you know, by pinching the fabric right here, and if it relaxes the back neckline, you're good. Now to fix the shirt she has on now, she could take the sleeve off and just trim away like this and put it back on. Okay, so if that is the issue, pinch up at the neck, at the shoulder, pick that seam up, you know, pick it up, see if it relaxes the back. If that works, take the sleeve off and trim off the fabric to get it on the shoulder, and you're good. If that isn't, so if you pinch it and that isn't fixing it, the next thing I would say is it's too short from here to here. This is too short. So she needs more length to get around her neck. And in that combination, in that situation, you could just extend the shoulder up like this to add some to let it relax and come back down. So that's another thing it could be. Or it could be that the whole thing is just too snug between center back and your armhole here. So in that case, what you would do is you could cut along your seam lines and put a pivot in the tip of the shoulder and put a pivot in the middle of the armhole and also in the neck and let it and pull it out a little bit to make more room. So it's going to be one of those things, but I don't know which one it is. I'll be honest, because I can't reach in and try it myself. So I'm hoping this helps you. And if it doesn't, please email me and I will help you. So that is that situation. And then let me just get to, Lazar says one or a combination of things. It could totally be a combination of things, but it's definitely something that's too tight or not long enough. Oh, Refresh says we're all helpful thinkers, aren't we? I have thought of all these options, LOLOLO, and I also have narrow at Karen shoulders, and my thinking will never end, I bet. Thanks, Jen, and chat too. Yay. Well, I do think it's good. Like, don't ever sit there and let me talk and tell you what the situation is. If you think you have a better idea, guess what? It might be better. I don't know everything. So I'm just trying my best to do what I know from my experience, but I might not know everything. That's just between us in this Q&A. All right, so let me get on to talk about Karen for a minute. I'm just going to take a minute and I'm going to print. I'm just going to print another set because those are so messy now. I don't want to look at them. So let me just print another front back bodice here. It'll just take a second to print, and then that way I can just show you on a fresh. I'll print out 2 copies just in case. And that way we can not be on these scribbled up versions. Okay. All right, so let me just make sure I answered everybody else. All right. All right, we have a fresh copy, a fresh set here. So all right, so this is not a dropped shoulder pattern. If this were a drop shoulder pattern, the armhole would look more like this. Like this would extend out and the shoulder would be very shallow, or the armhole would be very shallow like this. Okay, so you'd have all of this extra fabric that hangs off your shoulder. So if you've got a short shoulder and you feel like it's just hanging off way too much, I think what I would do is I would make just a half shirt and pin it to your center front and center back, and then just pick up or shorten the shoulder until the edge of the armhole is just hanging off, you know, maybe an inch and a half. But I will tell you that that is a subjective thing, because sometimes a drop shoulder will go all the way to your bicep. Like sometimes a drop shoulder will be way down here. And actually, I just answered a question in my Facebook group about a drop shoulder pattern, and then the sleeve was fitting really funky. So if you're working with a drop shoulder pattern, I'm just going to use the back of this to draw. The corresponding sleeve cap is going to be very almost straight as well. It's going to look like this versus, you know, a bell sleeve is going to do something like that, right? It's going to have a higher cap. So the difference between set-in sleeve and drop shoulder is the cap is shortened by the amount that the shoulder drops down, because you don't need from the tip of your shoulder to your bicep line, which is here. Okay, this is your bicep line right here. So it's only going to dip up enough to reach the armhole to get down to your shoulder, to your bicep, if that makes sense. So you could shorten this a little bit if you have narrow shoulders, but just keep in mind that a drop shoulder can really stop anywhere, but you want to get the balance between how this is extending off the tip of your shoulder together with how far this is from the bicep line. So this right here needs to correspond with wherever your tip of your shoulder is to here, if that makes sense. So wherever the tip of your shoulder is, if you measure down, and then from wherever the armhole sits, measure down to your bicep line, that's how high this should be. So if you want to shorten this a little bit, you can. If you measure these two things and it's hanging below your bicep, then I would shorten it up here, I guess. So does that help, Karen, with a drop shoulder? And, you know, with you're going to have to consider your sleeve, because again, if I were to take like a, let me see if I can find something easy. Oh, I know. Oh, that's black though. All right, so like if I just take a piece of, I'm just going to take a piece of my elastic here. Hold on one second. So Karen wants to know if she has to adjust the sleeve cap. I don't think you have to adjust the cap. You just want to make sure that after you move this in, just walk it and make sure it still fits. But you can do all your adjusting on the shoulder to pick it up so that the cap, let me just show you this. I'm going to just tie this into a circle here. Let me just sew this into a circle. Hold on. I'm just going to make like a little band to put around my bicep so I can show you what I'm talking about. And I have like another 5 minutes, or till quarter of. I have to leave at quarter of because I have to pick up my granddaughter. But let me just, hold on one second here. I'm making a narrow elastic that I can put around my bicep to illustrate this better. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly sew this into a circle. Hold on. All right, so here's what I want to show you. Riffraff says remove same amount from the sleeve cap. No. Let me show you. Hold on. All right, let me get rid of this picture here. Okay, so here is my bicep. Now the bicep is here, right? And if I lift up my arm, that's the base of the sleeve, and where the underarm seam starts with the side seam, right? That's this area right here. So see right here at the base of the bicep line, here and here, that line is right here, right? And it goes around that's the bicep line. So if you have a drop shoulder, let's say you put your drop shoulder on a muslin and the sleeve comes down to here. That's where the armhole is, where my finger is. You want to measure the difference between wherever that armhole ended, where my pointer finger is, to the bicep line. So between these two fingers, that's the height of your sleeve cap, if that makes sense. So if your shoulder is hanging off too far, it's going to cause it to fit funky, because you've got the bicep here and it's sewn to the underarm and side seam here, and you've got too much length and it's going to blob out and be funky. So let's just recap. You don't need to make an adjustment to your cap, because if you take in this, so like let's say we just did this, let me just do it really quick. I'm just going to draw those lines like I did. Let me show you what I'm doing. Hold on, let me switch. All right, so if we, like, let's say we decide we want to pick up that armhole a ½ inch, let's say, or whatever it is, just slide it up like this, right? So now it's going to hang lower. I mean higher. It's not going to hang as low. Then we fix this like that. Okay. I don't think there's a significant difference between the original armhole length and the new length. Matter of fact, I'll measure it for you to show you. So if I measure the top part of this, this is like 2 1/4, and that's 3, so that's 5 1/4. And then if I measure the new one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's 5 1/4-ish. It's like almost, it might be a 1/16 of an inch off, but the new sleeve is the same length, so you do not have to change your cap. Okay, so I think the thing is, you want to see where measure from your neck to where the shoulder seam is going to end, and then add the cap measurement on. And if you end up down here somewhere because it's too long, shorten your armhole to get it up so that when you attach the cap back on, it lines up at your bicep line. Okay, so Riffraff Ray says, I think I understand, not the sleeve cap line, that's just flattened, but so you don't need to adjust this, because this will still fit into your new pink armhole, because the length of it did not change. Okay, it's all about getting the length of wherever the armhole ends plus your cap should end at the bicep line. And maybe have a little ease. Like obviously you want to have like a little bit of ease there, you know, so your shoulder can move. Also remember to take out the seam allowances at the armhole and the top of the cap because that's adding an extra inch if you're working on a woven pattern. So shoulder length plus cap equals near bicep line plus a little bit of ease. So that's how I would adjust a drop shoulder. And listen, you guys, if you get off with me today and you say to yourself, I don't get it yet, just post your questions and we will review it again next week. So yes, the seam line or the stitching line for the cap to the armhole is going to stay pretty much the same. Oh, great, Jen. I also think I need the possibility of petiting because I kind of remember having too much fabric at the armhole. Wonderful. Now go pick up your granddaughter. Yes, I know. I have to go, you guys. But thank you for joining me. And next week, I'm going to be answering a question about raglan sleeves. And I will post the exact questions in the community tab on my channel. And I will also advertise it before our live goes live either Tuesday or Wednesday next week, so you know what we're talking about. But please, if you have questions that you're interested in finding out answers to, definitely either bring them with you when you come or email me and I can prep for that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Subscriber Q&A. I'm really excited. I want to show you one thing. Now, I have it on my phone, so you're going to have to just deal with me here. I saw this on Instagram and I just snapped a picture of it. I'm going to draw a monarch butterfly. Hold on, I got to find it. Where is my monarch butterfly? I'm going to draw a monarch butterfly on a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to poke holes in the wings, and then we're going to go in my front yard and we're going to put the dandelions in the hole, and it's going to make this really pretty monarch butterfly for her to give to her mom. So that's what we're going to be doing as an arts and crafts for today. So it's a really fun project, see? All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.